Hello, welcome to WD18, the Watford fan channel. Welcome to another live show on the channel. It's not just the Spurs versus Watford match preview today. No, not just that. We've got a lot to cover. We're going to be talking about the Crystal Palace win in midweek in the Carabao Cup. We've got the transfer news, the transfer saga, which seems to be coming to a conclusion with Will Hughes moving to Crystal Palace. We've got the new Watford third kit to talk through. Okay, Kuglu potentially making a move to Watford. Success joining you today, Izzy. And finally, this is big breaking news coming out of Watford. Troy Deeney, club captain, could be leaving the football club after 11 full seasons at Vicarage Road. A packed Watford show for you here on WD18. Before we do get into it, guys, please do leave a like on the video if you enjoy. Don't forget to subscribe to WD18 if you're new and get in your comments in the live chat. And if you're watching this back, as always, let us know what you think in the comment section below on anything we talk about and the video in general. So to introduce everyone involved today, of course, we've got Sam Yuko. How you doing, buddy?
Do you know what? I think this has probably been our easiest ever video to plan. I mean, we've got so much to talk about. We could do this across 5 videos. So, yeah, thank you everyone for watching today. And absolutely mental 48 hours in football, not just with Watford, but we got Ronaldo going to Man City and Mbappe going to Real Madrid, and absolutely mental last week of the window. Can't wait for it.
Mbappe to Real Madrid. Okay, Kuglu to Watford.
Yeah, exactly.
And of course, Hornet Shane. That might be the big transfer rumour if Shane moves to another Watford podcast. But no, he's here. He's here to stay. Hornet Shane.
He's one of our own. He's one of our own.
I'm not sure there's a Watford podcast out there that could probably afford me on my massive wages on what I ultimately demand. But I'm just kidding, by the way. I'm just joking. But no, it's been a bit of a wild day, isn't it? You know, the last week of the transfer window always is, and this time next week we'll kind of know who's gone, you know, and who's staying, and all of that sort of stuff. And we'll get our yellow ties out next Tuesday, so that'll be fun. So yeah, no.
Shane, did you see that? I don't think Jim White's on it this year on Sky Sports News. I think
really?
He left. Yeah,
oh,
it's quite a shame.
I might actually end up watching it for once this year. That's good. I don't know. I find it all a little bit overblown, to be honest. I don't know. It's just a bit too much. I'm a fussy man anyway. I prefer just to just check Twitter. Has anything happened to my club? Okay, fine. Anything other big? No. All right, fine. I'll just carry on then, innit? Because I feel like kind of like the hype of it has kind of been lost a little bit just down the years. You know, there have been some very quiet days, and you know, you tune on at 5 o'clock, and you've got a Sky Sports news anchor and Darmesh sitting there to say that there's some big news coming out of Accrington Stanley, and you know, it's just breaking news for Dundee United. You know, it's just great. It's just, but we know what like the big news is, and we obviously we've got Adam Leventhal, who kind of breaks all the big news and kind of keeps us all in the loop anyway. So if he's in the know,
little fun story.
That's what I really care about, to be honest.
Me and Shano, I don't know if you remember this, Shano, about I think it was January transfer.
Yeah,
I remember that.
Yeah,
myself and Shane were hanging outside Vicarage Road like prime supporters, and we actually saw Gary Cottrell. I think that was
mate. Do you have any idea that day? It was pouring down outside. I remember it was in the summer. It was pouring down outside, right? Me and you, we were joined by a guy called Aidan, who was like a long time part of the channel, right? He left about 2 hours after because he thought it was so boring, right? Me and you standing outside. I think Maps turned up to go into the club shop to get some merchandise as well for the kids, right? So his kids were in there looking. We had a brief chat with Maps. Maps then walked inside. We then saw a car turn up. You thought it was Tom Davis sitting in the front, and it wasn't. It was some guy with long blonde hair. I was like, was that? But then we actually found out that might have been Domingos Quina, because that signing was going to announce later on that night in a potential thing. Like, we got
of course.
It's Quina.
I thought you were talking about Jacob. You went on Sky Sports News one deadline day, didn't you, or something like that?
Oh, that was superb.
Yeah, that was good fun. I was in my 1984 Watford shirt, just kind of talking about the new season. In fairness, I think it was the season just before, what we won the opening 4 days of our Premier League campaign. Yeah. And I said, we could get off to a good start here. And we actually did. We went on to win the first 4 games. But enough of that. You know what, Shano? As Sam said, there's so much to talk about today. And thank you to everyone who's joined us to dissect what has been an incredibly busy week to be a Watford fan. I think the best place to kickstart it, Sam, is Crystal Palace on Tuesday night. It's 1-0 win. Fun quick stats here. Watford had 9 shots to Palace's 11, 2 shots on target to Palace's 4. Moving on to possession, 33% possession from Watford, and we managed to, Cisco's tricky yellows have managed to pull off a 1-0 win with Ashley Fletcher with an 86th-minute winner. Sam, what were the most positive aspects of Watford's performance in the week? Because it was a rotated side in the end.
Yeah, it's a difficult game to dissect because it was incredibly scrappy. There were some parts of the game where we really impressed, and some parts where I thought Palace looked really, really strong as well. For looking at the positives, first of all, I thought there were certain players who looked really, really good. I thought, we'll go on to talk about Danny Rose looked absolutely brilliant. I thought Jeremy Ngaki had a good game. I thought William Troost-Ekong had an absolutely brilliant game. And that's something that we are going to have to talk about later on in the video when it comes to lineups, because with Francisco Sierralta also back playing well, it's another dilemma for Cisco coming in. But I don't know, I just thought it was buzzing for Ashley Fletcher as well. You could see he was so happy getting that goal in front of the Rookery as well. Everyone's singing his name. So I'd say those were the biggest positives for me. But it's just good to see that we've got players we can rely on the fringes of the squad. And it's good to see Cisco is able to use the squad as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a good rotation from Cisco. I saw it, Sam, as a game of 2 halves, really. First half, Watford, I thought, were pretty slow. I think the midfield is probably still an area we need to work on, that progression through the...
You say that. I thought Peter Etebo was brilliant as well. He looked really good, I thought.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. But that's the thing with Peter Etebo. He's brilliant at breaking up the play. I think it's just having that player like Kutsko who can drive into the final third. Because we've got the attacking players. I mean, you look at the rotation on Tuesday night. Look, Cucho played, Ashley Fletcher played, Emmanuel Dennis came on, Josh King. I mean, in a way, this has kind of forced the Deeney situations for him to consider his future. So we'll discuss that later on in the video. But Shane, I wanted to ask you about how you're viewing the Carabao Cup this season and cup competitions in general. Are you seeing it as a priority, or are you seeing it as an opportunity just to rotate the squad?
Yeah, it's a weird one, isn't it? The Carabao Cup, as I've always called it, the League Cup. It's just one of those. I think it's one early part of the season, good for kind of match fitness, using a lot of the fringe players, as I think we managed to do. Great to see Ashley Fletcher score. Great to see him score in front of the Rookery. Really, really happy for him. He's someone who's been well documented. He's had his difficulties, hasn't he? He's been at Middlesbrough. He's been at West Ham, I think, as well. So great to see him get off the mark. I think he's very much almost down the pecking order a little bit. So I think he might well even be used for those cup competitions. But, with news that's kind of breaking today, maybe he gets elevated in our squad. Who knows? I think the big standout for me, just going back onto the game, was Danny Rose. I think I left back so many great reports about him. He was getting the ball forward really well. Looked like the man that we have kind of signed in, a Premier League quality man. Of course, we know he was on loan with us briefly, but I'm looking forward to seeing kind of more of him, really. How am I viewing the Cups? I always view the League Cup as something for the fringe players. FA Cup means a lot to me. I'm quite traditional, a bit of an old man mentality. If you talk to me, I enjoy, like, third round FA Cup weekend for me is one of the highlights of the season. Seeing all the big shocks, going to a game if possible. It's been treated to some great games as well in the FA Cup. We've got a very decent history as well in the Cup. We were in the final in 2019, 2016 as well. I take the FA Cup a lot more seriously. I would love one year to go to Wembley. We were very close in 2019, although not that close. But I'd love to go to Wembley one year and see us lift the FA Cup. It would be an incredible moment, as I think it would be for any fan. And it's always worth remembering that, despite things didn't work out for us in 2019, a million clubs would kill to be in our position, to be going to a stadium, singing Abide By Me, or with me, and then watching their team play in an FA Cup final. And, we kind of lived that. It didn't end out the way in which we wanted it to. We didn't work out in that way. But I love the FA. I've always loved the FA Cup more than the League Cup. League Cup, yeah, all right, the fringe players can get themselves in there. The under-23s, nice to see Jamie, I think, the bench last on Tuesday night, about giving those youngsters in there. What was quite interesting, though, specifically, is that Cisco kind of prioritised this. Is looking to prioritise it. There weren't that many under-23s. I don't think any started the game, actually, off the top of my head. It's quite a full-strength 11. So I think it also helps with fixture congestion. The final will happen in like late kind of February kind of time. It happens all before Christmas, like the bulk of it. So that's kind of how I view the Cups, as like both of them. But listen, a win's a win into the next round. Good draw next round. Stoke City at the Vic. Tough team, tough Championship side. But I'm confident we might be able to get another result and move into, well, kind of clear another obstacle and go into yet another round.
Yeah, absolutely, Shane. I think that the thing is for me, Sam, is, look, this actually could have been. Let's just assume we didn't beat Palace in the week. That would have looked like a pretty poor week for Watford, losing away at Brighton and then losing to Palace. But I actually think, regardless of it being a rotated team, wins breed confidence, as the cliche says. And I think going into Spurs this week, as a result of the week, the midweek result, how much more confident are you feeling going into Spurs at the weekend? Of course, it's going to be a difficult task, but do you think it will make a big difference, that win in the week?
I'm not sure how big of a difference it will make. I think certainly it will help get that Brighton performance and the result out of the players' heads. And ultimately, momentum is so important in football. Getting back to winning ways, just improving the room in the mood in the dressing room. For me, it was more about avoiding defeat, because imagine the mood in the fan base and the mood in the dressing room if we had lost that game. I'm not sure how much of a difference winning would have made, but losing, I know, would have made things 10 times worse. So I'm not sure if it's changing my confidence too much for Sunday, as it's going to be such a tough game, particularly with the news that Harry Kane's now staying, which we'll talk about in a bit as well. But it's going to be a tough game, and I'm just happy we got Tuesday night out of the way. It's a bit. I'm not frustrating, so I always knew it would be. I think that Stoke game will be the first game I'm missing this season. It's like the second day after I've moved into uni, so I'm going to have to give that one a miss. The Ben Wilmot derby, so I'll try my best to watch from Birmingham.
And the Peter Etebo derby. I think he's going to be cup tied for that one as well.
Yeah, the cup tied, yeah.
So the Ben Wilmot derby will be an interesting one. Let's just have a little look through your comments. We're going to discuss a little bit of Troy Deeney, actually, just because it kind of links into that Crystal Palace game with him not being involved. I saw an interesting comment up here about big test on Sunday against Spurs. Moving on from Hughes, etc. I'd play Hughes at least initially. Midfielder's still a problem, though. We'll move on to Spurs in just a second. Aaron says, I'd like to see a cup run because we can easily field two strong 11s with completely different players, which allows players to prove themselves. Anthony says it's a priority for a club with a currently oversized squad. Will matter less after deadline day. I think he's referring to who to stay and who to keep. And Aaron says Imran Louza, he thought massively improved in midweek from the Brighton performance where he looked off the pace. And look, I think with Imran Louza, just from my perspective, Shane, it's been two performances from him, but I liken it to Abdoulaye Doucouré a little bit. I mean, I've had quite a few reservations with Abdoulaye about his ability. I think when he came into the squad, when he didn't go out on loan or didn't get bought permanently by Lorient in the January of 2017, and we kept him under Walter Mazzarri to the back end of that season, I thought, is this player really got any ability? He was playing like an attacking midfielder role. And then it came to the start of the second season for him, and he just looked an unbelievable player when he adjusted to the Premier League. So what's your opinion so far on Imran Louza of what you've seen in the relatively short period so far?
Well, as you mentioned, in it with Abdoulaye Doucouré, that was a real sliding doors moment for him. The potential loan move, him staying, it cemented his, for use of a better word, somewhat legacy really at Watford. He turned on to be such a great player for us. He's moved on now at Everton. He's doing great things. Got a great goal a couple of weeks ago. Louza's an interesting one, though. I think for me, it's I don't think we're going to try and hide away from it. He looked off the pace against Brighton. I mean, it was quite, to be called off at half time, a new signing. It didn't look right. I think we ultimately improved those second half and the changes and so on that were made. It's going to take him time. I don't think we ought to kind of judge him just yet. Our midfielder, I think, is in a little bit of a tight situation. We've not got very many fit midfielders. I think Gosling might still be ill for the weekend, and with no Tufan and Kuchka, they're a bit light in there, aren't they? No, three people not potentially playing, three midfielders to potentially pick from. We're going to have to go with Louza again, I think, in some respects, unless we change formation. Unless you maybe play two in the midfield, you stick one of them out on the bench as like someone to come on. I don't really see that happening as much as I think that might make a bit more sense. But look, Louza will have chances. He will ultimately get time, and it'll bit like what we were talking about earlier, really, with the deadline day. Will there be another signing coming in the midfield? Looks like we're kind of prioritising that. Let's see what happens. I don't know. I think we as Watford fans, we've seen a lot of midfielders down the years, and many different positions and areas and ability and legendary people. But let's not judge him over like a couple of matches. You know, let's just see how he gets on. Doucouré is a prime example of that. You know, a lot of fans kind of wrote him off. I remember being at Arsenal away, and he was that January game that he won 2-1. I remember him coming on. I remember a couple of rows back, someone was like, "Oh, not this guy," like, you know. And then I remember, as you hear, one of the things I missed about football, just people talking randomly during the game. You know, being like, "Oh, he's just a bit of like a jangly kind of guy in the midfield. Like, he just doesn't look all that put together." And, you know, there was a lot of, a lot of kind of groans or, "Oh, why him?" But when he left, there are a lot of broken hearts. So let's see what happens with him, Ron. But, you know, he's looks to be a key part of our team. He's going to get a lot of minutes. I just hope he improves and shows us the quality that clearly we kind of saw in him to bring him to Watford.
Yeah, and exactly that. And just on the topic of the midfield, Sam, I wanted to get your thoughts on this situation with Ken Sema. And Anthony puts a good question in the comment section. What do we think of Sema as a consistent central midfield option, Sam?
I thought he looked really good there. I wasn't going to bring this up until we discussed our starting 11s. I mean, I'm not saying I would necessarily play Ken Sema there, but it really wouldn't shock me if he did. I think he's a player who, first of all, regardless of where he's playing, whether it's left back, left wing, off the striker or centre mid, that's the areas we've seen him play, is he'll always give 110%. He's an absolute workhorse in there. And that's the sort of thing you need in the Premier League, someone just to keep on running throughout the 90 minutes. All right, technically he's far from our best player, and that's an area of his game he does need to work on. However, I feel like one area that we are missing a lot, and one of my concerns for Tuesday night still, was the lack of progression between midfield and attack. We're really missing that link, and I think Ken Sema, when, you know, with João Pedro still not fit and Zinchenko out on loan and no one knows what's happening with Keane at the moment, I think Sema could perhaps be an option in there in centre mid. So certainly interesting to see what happens. He tried it a bit against Brighton, played there on Tuesday night, and I thought he did relatively well. So it wouldn't shock me if we see more of it in the future, but I think he will go safe on Sunday and play Imran Loser in there.
Yeah, we'll get into our Spurs team in just a moment. Shane, I wanted to chuck it over to you before we move on to Spurs and just finish on the whole Palace game. Now, I think most Watford fans thought, I don't want to speak for everyone, but I certainly thought anyway that Troy Deeney would be involved in the squad, at least on the bench, and there was no sign of him at all, which was a huge shock for me. And the question, my initial reaction, Shane, was he's off. Just
before Shane answers that, do you know what my gut feeling was? Because we've mentioned beforehand how we think we'll go with a more against the big six teams away from home, how we're going to go for a more conservative approach. I thought he wasn't in the squad because he's going to start on Sunday. That's where I thought he was, and they wanted to keep him fit. But obviously, Shane, let's go over to you. I mean, things have transpired differently.
Yeah, Shane, what do you make of the whole Deeney situation? It's then just to add to what Sam said. We're hearing from Adam Leventhal that Troy could leave before the deadline after 11 full seasons at the club. Two questions. Number one, what do you think will happen? And number two, what was your thoughts on the news on Tuesday night?
Do you know what? I'll start off with Tuesday night first. I think it was a shock to not see him in the starting 11. I kind of maybe saw it as, I think maybe initially as, okay, well, we'll give him minutes to other people. Troy has played minutes off the bench. Ashley Fletcher has sat on the bench for 2 games and hasn't played any minutes at all. Chance 19 minutes for him to come on, you know, and do kind of something. To see Jamie Alvarado, though, in there, the under-23, I personally thought it might have been one of those kind of late kind of decisions, mate. I don't know. It just, Alvarado coming was like a bit of an odd one, really. My initial kind of reaction after that was quite similar to Sam's, but like, okay, well, maybe he's playing against Spurs. I saw a lot of fans speculate, you know what, he's probably been safe for Spurs. His injury kind of problems as well, the whole 2 games a week, that's the problem, potentially. You know, he doesn't want to play midweek and then play again at the weekend or be involved, potentially prioritising for Premier League games. But the news today is one that, as you know, Jacob, has done many years of doing this show, of doing the channel. I'm a huge Troy fan, and I'm honest with you. I'll be gutted if he was to go. I would genuinely be gutted. And it looks like now, in some respects, he's not going to be a part of the squad on Sunday. I think that's maybe why some of this news has come out now, to kind of prepare fans to go, right, well, he's not going to be in the squad on Sunday. Now, if he is in the squad on Sunday, then I think that this takes a completely different twist. But I think with what Adam Leventhal, I think, was saying in his article about it, or I think in the brief thing that I have read, is that, you know, his representatives are now looking to kind of negotiate an acrimonious way of leaving the football club, which I don't know. Listen, I'm always going to have Troy's back in some of this stuff. I'm a massive fan about it. But I think I have to go back to what he said. I think it was maybe last summer, September, October kind of time, actually, last year when he was doing his show on TalkSport. He was talking initially, I think, about some of the transfer rumours that were coming his way last summer. Linked with Tottenham, linked with Sivasspor, I think, in Turkey as well. West Brom, I think, were like kind of like looking around that kind of time. And I remember him saying, I mean, well, one of the key reasons as to why he maybe didn't move then was, I didn't want to be just someone that was on the bench, kind of coming off, you know. I think he even went as far as to say, if you're kind of doing that in your career, it's maybe time to start looking elsewhere. And I think with Troy, that has now started to happen with him at Watford. It's a natural progression. Every club goes through it. You know, every club has a legend. Every club have incredible players that have played for them down spanning many years. And Troy's spanned more than a decade now, 11 years. And, you know, I remember seeing him Norwich away, 2010-11. That was a long, long time ago. I was starting my GCSE year that year, and I'm now in a full-time paid job. That's how long he's been in my life, Watford supporting life. And I will be emotional if the news comes through and, you know, it does happen. It will be emotional. I think what will make me slightly more emotional is that he's maybe not been given a send-off. His last game isn't going to be at Vicarage Road, for example. You know, it will kind of be in like a state of flux. It would be nice if he maybe left at the end of the season. There are obviously lots and lots of question marks. I'm jumping to step number 15 in a process that's only really at step 1. Someone has got to put in a bid for him. Someone has got to take him away from the club. The big stumbling block, I think, with Troy is his wages. I feel like now is the time, if he wants to go, if the club are happy to let him go, and I think if it's a deal that's right for both parties, I think it will happen. Because I think a lot of fans have mentioned, you know, Birmingham City being a team, you know, he's boyhood Birmingham City supporter. It might be a situation whereby now is the right time to kind of do it, to make that transfer. He goes to Birmingham City, maybe pay part of his wages as he goes down. They pay the other half of it. It'll be difficult once, if, touch wood, we're hopefully not, relegated this season, you're not going to sell to another team in the same division. And that's why, right now, if Troy wants to have another season, another 2 seasons, potentially not maybe the starting player, but I think maybe used a lot more. And it's, you know, it's tough for him now. There are a lot of other players that have been signed: Josh King, Manuel Dennis, Ashley Fletcher. And when you kind of look at those 3 players, I think maybe Josh King aside, because he's kind of had a few fitness problems, Emmanuel Dennis has hit the ground running. You've got Ashley Fletcher, who's scored, started a game, and looked impressive as well. Like, you can see him, he's a young guy, 25 years old. Evolution happens, but you know, if it was to happen and if he was to leave, I'd be very, very upset by that. I still think he has something to offer. I still think use him off the bench, potentially up against the top 6 sides. I don't think the 4-3-3 will work every week. But having said all of that, if we were to go to a 4-4-2, there are now other options that can play up front. You know, you've got Josh King in there. You've got Emmanuel Dennis in there. We could start a partnership with one of those guys. No longer looking to Troy, but for all the years that we have looked to Troy, it'll, as I say, it'll be a sad moment, but lots to potentially do on that side. But if you want my honest opinion, what I think will happen, I think he will potentially leave. I feel something feels a bit different this time. I don't know what it is. Last summer, I wasn't too fussed about it. I think he was quite open about his time in the Championship. I think he kind of knew. He kind of stepped aside as well. I think back end of last season, he allowed big lads to kind of play. You know, he wasn't particularly comfortable with getting involved with all that celebrations. But and I will just end on this final point. He did say in his matchday program notes, his column notes for the Aston Villa game, that one thing I'm not looking forward to this season is spending time on the bench, but I'm going to have to sit there and be happy with that if I'm not one of the top performing strikers at this club. He said that pretty much word for word. And I think that kind of just brutal honesty before a ball was even kicked, I think just says everything, really, doesn't it? He knows the kind of position he's probably going to be in this season. And ultimately, look, we need to potentially try and get rid of players off our wage bill. If he was to leave, if he was to maybe put the club in a better position, then I think for me, I don't know about other fans, but for me, he would strengthen his position as a legend. Moving on, allowing the club to free up that kind of wages, and ultimately leaving, for me, nothing less than absolute legend.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said, Shano. I think, Sam, just on the Deeney situation, I think we should really dedicate a bit of time to it because it's quite a momentous rumour, and it's going to be a momentous moment when Troy does eventually leave Watford. According to Adam Leventhal, Sam, Troy is considering his options, having fallen down the pecking order after, obviously, the arrival of Emmanuel Dennis and Joshua King. Obviously, Ashley Fletcher, Cucho Hernandez, and the man who I've forgotten about is João Pedro coming back into the team as well. So there's options there. So in fairness, are you that shocked that this rumour has come out at this time?
It's the timing that's more than anything else. I think with a week left in the window, it's going to be difficult. That being said, I haven't read Adam Leventhal's article yet or whatever he's put out. But if he's saying he's considering his options, that suggests to me that there are options there on the table. And perhaps, there's also a wage structure in there to sort out his wages wherever he goes. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens. I don't want him to have a central role this season, but I feel like he'd be a good person to have in and around the club in our first year back in the Premier League. And also, as Shane said, it'll be a shame to let him go without having a testimonial or a proper opportunity to say goodbye to Vicar Drogue, because 11 years in football is a long time. It's a long time. We're looking at these club legends nowadays not staying longer than 3 or 4 years. As I mentioned at the top of the show, we got Kylian Mbappe, who's, his boyhood club's PSG, and he's looking at going. Troy's been loyal to us. He turned down Leicester City in 2016. He's had offers. He's gone through a lot of troubles with us. And while, perhaps as a player, he could be going on kind of I don't want to say a downward sort of stretch, but he is coming towards the end of his career. It will be a shame for him not to have that opportunity to say goodbye to the fans, and that will be the only thing that upsets me with it.
Yeah, let's have a little look through your comments. I think it's one of those situations, lads, where it's going to split opinion. I think we all know about Troy Deeney. He always sparks conversation. Got a comment here saying, I believe Troy will stay. However, I can't see him fitting the system. He doesn't work in a 4-3-3, but the team falls apart when switched to another formation. Aaron says, Troy leaving would seriously help us financially right now. Him and Hughesy out would surely be able to fund a move for Kujlu and one more maybe. Lewis says, we as a club should allow Deeney to leave if he wants to, with a statue and a bloody guard of honour, 11 years of solid service. And Charlotte again says Troy deserves a testimonial after all he has done for the football club.
And that's the only downside of all of this, is that if he does go now, which is probably, as now or the end of the season is probably the right time for him to move on, if we're being brutally honest. That's the only downside of it, is that he wouldn't have been able to have that testimonial or whatever the club were going to do to, to mark 11 years at the club, which is a shame. But it'll be interesting to see what happens over the next few days. Yeah,
and Jack here just saying, regardless of whether we want him to go or not, there's no way the club would sell him, in his opinion. We're a classy club, and it would be silly to let him go with a year left to go. I'm going to be honest, I actually don't know how long Troy's got on his contract, because I don't think the club officially released the contract.
I think this is now, I think, the final year of his deal. I believe that's actually the case. But actually, you say that, I mean, like what Jack actually says there about, being at the classy club and all that. Remember, that last fans forum that we had our Via Hive Live, and the big topic, one of the topics of talk there was the departure of Adrian Mariappa, and how the club didn't announce a man who's made so many appearances for us, been with us since the youth academy days, wasn't given any kind of proper send-off. Like, there was a half-baked kind of, I don't even think there was even, as we are living in a day and age of social media now, like a montage of his career. It was literally one statement out, and that was it. There was nothing else. And it was announced after the whole thing actually had happened. So he had left. And then I think it might have been a few hours later, the statement then came out. So I think the club, I'm not saying it's going to dictate anything. I think the club are quite wary of doing things right this time around. And, Matt's a great choice, just on another level, I think, compared to stature-wise, I think, as well. Is there maybe a situation whereby they say, buy your time now and we'll let you go at the end of the season with a testimonial plan for the summer? Maybe as part of the pre-season kind of pressure, summer is easier, get ex-players together, etc., and, the fans and all that. A lot of things, it kind of depends on a lot of things right now, but I think the wages are a big stumbling block. I think if that can be overcome, then I can see him leaving within the next week or so. But as Sam says, it is a bit late for this to kind of be coming out now, and things kind of winding down. A lot of clubs having done their business potentially. I know Birmingham City were linked with Andre Gray, for example. And I think they may well have made some other signings as well. I think they might even have made one other key kind of signing in that position. But let's just wait and see what happens here. But I think it's quite clear that it would be a seismic moment, I think, for the club to let someone go of his stature. 11 years is just an incredible amount of time, and loyalty in football is dead. And Troy is one of those reminders that he's stayed, he's had a good career. Sam said he's had his ups and downs, but ultimately he will leave nothing but a legend, in my honest opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. I think everyone agrees with you on that one, Shano. You know what? There's a lot of Troy chat. We don't want to say he has left just yet. I think we'll see more developments in the last week or so, but definitely one to keep out for as Watford fans. Sam, look, we're half an hour into a Spurs Watford preview, and we haven't talked about the game yet. There's been so much going on. You know what? Let's get straight into it, Sam, and let's go starting the lineups. Who do you want to see start? I know I've seen a lot of Danny Rose chat online at the moment. Does he start simply?
I was sat there earlier today, and I'm thinking this lineup today for Sunday is completely up in the air because there are so many options everywhere on the pitch, particularly after Tuesday night. Daniel Bachmann nailed down to start for me, but then you've also got the dilemma at right back. Ngakia, Cathcart, Kiko Femenea, left back, Danny Rose or Adam Messina, centre backs, Sierralta, Kabasele, Troost-Ekong. After Troost-Ekong, played badly last week, he had a very good game on Tuesday night. Do you bring Sierralta back in? Centre mids, as we say, we're limited for options in there, but does he bring Sem into there? Does Cucho Hernandez start? It's completely up in the air, so it's difficult, but I think we can all agree it'll be Daniel Bachmann in goal. I think Foster had a good game, but it'll be Bachmann. I think it will be Messina. I want it to be Danny Rose, but I think it will be Messina. I think perhaps 2 games in a week for Rose might be too difficult at this stage. I think he will play a lot in the next couple of weeks when he's fully fit, but I think they're not going to want to risk him, so I think it'll be Adam Messina. I think Sierralta will come back in, and I think he'll be partnered by Troost-Ekong. He'll go back to what he had last season. They've got the best defence in Championship history. I think we'll see the right back. I have no idea. I think we'll see Ngakia. I think it will be Cathcart because him against Son, he might want him just to sit back.
I'm not going to lie to you, mate. Ngakia, when he came off the other day, did not look happy at all. I think he pulled down when he came off, and he was not. I was just in front of him. He was not happy that he got taken off the other day. So I don't know. I just don't think he fancies Ngakia. If I'm completely honest.
We didn't mention this last week, but I was thinking this. I could see the Jeremy Ngakia situation ending very much like the Ben Wilmot situation, if that makes any sense, with just frozen out, that sort of thing. So I think it'll be any of the right backs. Got no idea. Centre mids, I think we'll see Peter Etebo. I think he's nailed on in there. Tom Cleverley nailed on in there. And then it's either Imran Louza or Ken Sema. And if Ken doesn't play in there, he'll play on the left. If Ken plays centre mid, it'll be Cucho on the left. So for now, I think it'll be Imran Louza in there. And then I think it'll be a front three of Sema, Dennis and Sarr. Dennis looked sharp the other night, by the way, when he came on. He looked really good.
Yeah, he did look really sharp. The attacking part of this squad is so exciting. And with Zhao coming back as well. Shano, just one thing I wanted to throw out there, just looking at Tottenham, obviously it's a new era at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium under Nuno Espirito Santo. If I'm completely honest, they're playing more like I thought they would under Mourinho than they are under Nuno, to be honest with you. But one thing I've spotted over the last few games watching Spurs, obviously they play against Man City, they play against Wolves, won both games there. They haven't lost just yet. Is number one, they've scored the first goal in both of those games. So that's definitely one aspect that we can look to attack. We can get an early goal and it'd be interesting to see how they react. And number two is the system they play. They play a 4-3-3 with a double pivot of Oliver Skip and Højbjerg with Ali just in front. Now, with that 4-3-3 system, could you see Xisco Munoz potentially changing the system to counteract that? Or do you think he'll continue with the 4-3-3 and go for man?
I think this was something that we briefly touched upon this thing earlier on. The whole changing of the formation, if you're playing like the top six sides, maybe being a bit more conservative with the 4-4-2. I don't know if I really want that to happen because I'm not sure how that would really look at the moment. I think we've got so many options out there. It's just it's frightening, really. But I think he'll go. I still think we'll stick with the 4-3-3 and then change it if we need to at half time or whenever. I think Xisco is becoming a little bit more adept at kind of changing things as and when is needed. You know, he made the big change, didn't he, at half time in the Brighton game, brought on Cucho, and, you know, that looked a lot better. You know, I think with Cucho kind of running with the Brighton defence and all that, and it was all a little bit too late potentially in the end. You know, Troy coming on late, played all right, but that kind of attacking crescendo, kind of building up to it, but you know, the game was well gone by then. So I think that's what we're going to need to try to avoid this time around. You're absolutely right. Spurs have scored the first goal in their last 2 games, and it's all one of those things, I think, whereby I think I watched their highlights actually on the game that they played on Sunday. Actually, Wolves really should have scored. I was saying this to Sam before we began. Like, Wolves actually should have scored, and I think if they had done, scored 1 goal, got themselves back into where, you know, you're heading for like a grandstand finish there. But it'd be great to see us score the first goal as we did a couple of years ago. I remember doing. I remember being there, not really expecting too much from the game, but seeing Decore sweep the ball home was a great moment. And again. That year we should have won that game as well, with the whole VAR and all that horrible stuff that came out to bite us and all of that. I think Xisco will go with a 4-3-3. Who he plays in that 4-3-3 is an interesting one. I think the defence, if I'm being honest, I know Samson Messina, I'd love to see Danny Rose start. That Premier League experience against his old side. I feel something needs to go right for him, and I feel like if he's picked, I feel like he'll play. I feel like he'll be kind of not so much like a safe option, but I have very little qualms about him. I like Messina. Don't get me wrong. I really like Messina, but there's a little bit of clumsiness in there with him. Just at times, you know, I wouldn't say, you know, all the kind of time. Right back, interesting chat there. I'd like to see Kiko start. I love Kiko. Like, you know, I do genuinely like him. I think that link up with Sarr down the right, we're kind of yet to see that. And
that worries me though, Shane. At the same time, that really does worry me though, because I love Kiko. I think he's brilliant, but a couple of times in the Premier League, particularly, we've seen him caught out when he pushes forward, and if he gets out of position here, then Heung-min Son is going to have.
That's very true.
And Sam, for you, is it weighing up the pros and cons with Kiko? Because I think we've seen before he does have a mistake in him at Premier League level, similar to Messina. But is it almost what he offers going forward in that link up with Sarr that we've got to weigh up? Is it weighing more with a Qatar?
But at the same time, we have to be realistic that we are going to be on the back foot for a lot of the game and soaking up a lot of pressure. And that's why I think the ideal player to have in this scenario would be Jeremy Ngakia. But as you say, I don't think Xisco fancies him too much.
You know what we say? Do you know what we've said? We've said Ngakia, we said Kiko. It just wouldn't surprise me if I'm standing in the concourse at about 1 o'clock. I look at my phone and I see Cathcart at right back, because
I think it will be Cathcart.
Just wouldn't surprise me.
I think it will be Cathcart.
I can see that.
I just want to chuck this kind of curveball out there. I've had this conversation with my dad over the last couple of days. I've been thinking about ways Watford could set up. Look, in possession with the ball, we're in a 4-3-3, but when we're out of possession, it's kind of like a 4-1-4-1, 4-5-1 if we want to go kind of basic with that. But one formation that I think could really suit this Watford squad potentially is a 3 at the back. I just feel maybe as a right centre back, Sierral to Troop, maybe Messina as a left centre back, playing Sema as a wing back. I don't know, just kind of chucking some ideas out there. I just feel maybe this squad is shaped for a 3 at the back. Now, could you see that, Sam? Could you see a 3 at the back potentially?
I couldn't see that. I couldn't see it on Saturday, and I don't think it's. I think at least from what we've seen with Xisco, it's going to be a 4-4-2 or a 4-3-3. I think it would suit this Watford side. I think particularly with the pace in behind that we've got with the likes of Emmanuel Dennis, I think it really could suit this Watford side. But then you got how do you use Ismaila Sarr in that formation, because we saw him struggle out and play right wing back towards the end of the Brighton game, didn't he? And I think we could struggle. I mean, not struggle. It's going to be. I don't know. I don't think we'd see it. I think it's a 4-4-2 or a 4-3-3.
Shano, great comment here from Aaron, actually, just reminding me in terms of the way we transitioned from the initial 4-3-3, where, let's be honest, we were chasing shadows against Brighton. To the second half, when we actually did go to a 3 at the back, we got a bit more of a grip of the game. We definitely look more positive going forward. Oh, sorry, that's not the right comment. Aaron says, wouldn't be surprised if he switches to a back 3 with how we improved with it versus Brighton. Now, the formation, I'd imagine it would be, Shana, would be a 3-4-2-1. That's pretty much the way we can only fit Sarr in. On the right-hand side. We can't go 3-4-1-2 because, as we saw under Kike, Sarr isn't as effective through the middle. So for you, 3-4-2-1, how does that sound?
it sounds it sounds like another combination of numbers, which I just don't think. Listen, I'm going to be really honest with you, Jacob. Like we have the great thing about like Watford fans and being a part of this channel, right, is that I get inundated with like formation suggestions and like people sending me like their preferred lineups. And I honestly sit there and I do a Simon Cowell, yes, no, definitely no, and it's just I can only see this. I think it's going either one of. I think it's going either one of two ways on Sunday. It's 4-3-3 or 4-4-2. Like I just it's do you know, honestly, I feel I'm not even gonna say it. But no, listen, I think it's gonna be either one of those two formations. If it's a 4-3-3, I'd be a little bit wary. I don't know. I kind of agree with you in one respect. We look I thought Dennis looked very isolated against Brighton. Did a lot of running around, a lot of tenacity in there, trying to close down the defenders. He was chasing shadows all game. Like the man runs for ever, but he was never getting into that game. And I just feel like Dennis and the 4-3-3 will only work against certain teams, against more physical centre backs. I think Tottenham are. Well, I think all centre backs are physical, but
we need to get out.
I don't know if Cisco. Yeah, exactly. But I'm not sure if Cisco will go for a slightly more conservative approach. Would he go for maybe Dennis playing off someone like King? Would he maybe? I don't know. Does he maybe pick Cucho up there? I don't really know. Cucho up there on his own in a 4-3-3 looks slightly isolated. The midfield one is a real difficulty for me because I could just see Sema starting in that midfield area. I could just see that happening, and I don't really agree with it. I'd prefer to see Imran Luseret in there, a natural centre midfielder. Sema has played all right. I feel like Lusa should start in the centre of that midfield along with Etebo and Cleverley. Left-hand side, Sema will probably get the nod. I don't want it to be Sema. I know, Jacob, you said on from the rookery end, you like to see Cucho as like a super sub kind of thing. I want to see him start again. What can he do?
Just to clarify that, my point on from the hooker end was more that I think Cucho can be particularly effective off the bench, but also I think he almost at this point deserved the start. I kind of was got spent time. I was sitting on the fence on the podcast on that one, but look, I think what we've seen from Cucho so far is he deserves a start at this point. Look, me and Sam mentioned it before that we've seen his impact off the bench. We liken it to Grealish of England. I've said that a couple of times already, but the fact of the matter is he's shown enough in the first two games now to justify a start. I just want to clarify that, by the way. Shano, so Cucho starts in the 3?
Yeah, Cucho starts on the left, Star on the right, and I would probably say Dennis up front. I don't know. I think I'm just saying the 4-3-3 because I think that's what everyone is probably as well. If I, again, standing in a concourse at 1 o'clock, I check the lineup and it goes 4-4-2, wouldn't really surprise me because it's a conservative approach. You're giving whoever's up front, Dennis, potentially a strike partner, 2 strikers to tackle the 2 centre-backs, Sarr in his natural position on the right, you've got Cucho running down the left, or Sema or whoever. That might work, but I don't know. And ultimately, look, we've got some great attacking talent on that bench. Whoever's not going to be picked, we've got the ability to change the game. It's one of those, I know it's an old football cliche, but it's obviously better if we score first. I feel like we go 1-0 down, as we did against Brighton. We're going to be chasing the game again, and this is a completely different kettle of fish. Tottenham could score an early goal and could potentially run away with it. It's about staying in the game as long as we can. If we're able to get that first goal, then I think the game will turn ever so slightly. I don't know if I'm very confident about the game. I'm not particularly confident now. Sunday morning, I'll be very confident because, I'll be away with the fairies because it's not, the first away game I've been to in ages. And the occasion will sweep me up in some way. And I'll probably predict something ridiculous. But right now, obviously, it's the obvious saying, I would bite your hand off for a draw right now. If you offered me any draw, any scoreline, except maybe 0-0, any draw right now, I would absolutely take it. Yeah, but I just think there's something more with this team. I feel like there's another layer that we can potentially uncover.
You know what? We've been talking about the Spurs game for a little while now, but thank you to everyone who got in the comments. It'll be interesting to see how we set up at the weekend. Really interesting dilemma for Xisco Munoz. What formation he goes with? Does he continue with the 4-3-3? Who does he select? There's some real big questions to answer. Sam, look, we're pushed for time, but we've got a few more things to discuss in this preview. The first of which, you know what, we'll do transfers first. Okay, actually, no, Will Hughes first. From what we're reading, Adam Leventhal again, Crystal Palace are close to finalising a deal worth in the region of £6 million for midfielder Will Hughes. It could rise to around £10 million with potential add-ons. Obviously, there's bonuses and clauses in the contract. It's been rumbling on all summer here at Watford and here on the channel. It finally looked to be coming to a conclusion. Sam sent me a GIF with Deeney and Decore celebrating in the corner versus Liverpool when he found out that it's going to be every Watford fan is just kind of glad this is coming to a conclusion. Sam, what's your initial reaction to the news from the Athletic and Adam Leventhal?
I think it's relief more than anything. We've spoken about it at least every video now for the last 2 months. Wish Hughesy all the best. I mean, I wish him all the best in his career, not necessarily to Crystal Palace, but I hope he does. I hope he does well for himself. Hopefully, gets that England call up at some point, and we see him have a real impact in the Premier League. That's all I'm going to say on it.
I know. Quick thoughts on Hughes. Yeah, we've kind of talked about it so much on the channel that it's gone a bit stale. But what's your thoughts on that one? It seems to be done anyway.
Yeah. Thank you so much for the service that you've kind of given us. Some amazing moments. Great player to see. The albino Iniesta, as he's been called. And I wish him, the very best luck in his own career. As to where he's going, I think the saying for that is, if I speak now, I'll be in big trouble. So I'm just going to leave that there.
I prefer not to speak.
I prefer not to speak. If I speak, I'll be in big trouble. So
you know what? I'm going to be the anchor on this. I'll just say a little thing on Will Hughes. I think ultimately this was probably the move that he didn't expect to be making at the start of the window. I think we all know he wanted a move to Aston Villa. That didn't materialise for whatever reason. He then got linked with a move to Burnley, Crystal Palace and Newcastle. Look, I think the positive for me as a Watford fan is that we're getting £6 million out of him and he's not leaving on a free. But I think it's a lesson for everyone about when it gets to the final year of the contract, the power is all the player and the agent. I don't know if Hughesy would be particularly happy that he's going to Crystal Palace. I think he's probably happy now because ultimately it was either the under-23s or it was Crystal Palace. And I think out of the two, playing obviously regular first-team football in the Premier League is a priority. And one thing to say about Will Hughes is incredibly gifted on the ball, instrumental in our promotion, committed player, quite sly in the way that I thought he'd be quite more of an attacking, creative player, but he turned to be a bit of a destroyer in midfield, particularly at the end of Nigel Pearson and in the promotion season, a key cog in Watford's midfield under Xisco Munoz. So thank you for your services, Will. All the best. Just a shame it's ended the way it has ended. I think that's probably it's just left a bit of a sour taste. I think not really anything against him, but I just think the way it's been managed, it's been a little bit of mismanagement from everyone involved. Really, not the best way to end our relationship with Will Hughes. But there we go. Will Hughes closing on a move to Crystal Palace for £6 million plus add-ons, rising to 10. Moving on, which kind of links into our player who hopefully will be coming in, Sam. And that's Okay Yakuzlu, another one that's been rumbling on this summer.
Rumbling on again.
The Celta Vigo midfielder has been linked with a move to Watford. He's keen on a move back to the Premier League. Celta Vigo value him at £5 million, and Watford are preparing to make a bid. Thoughts?
I mean, it's interesting. It's interesting the sequence that this has all happened in terms of, supposedly a couple of days ago we had a bid rejected for Yakuzlu. Today we are accepting a bid for Hughesy, and we hope to get Yakuzlu done soon as well. So it's that sort of sequence. I feel like that perhaps we didn't have the funds for Yakuzlu, and then I think we're now something's telling me that we're just going, do you know what, Hughesy's not going to stay. Let's get what we can for him, and then just letting him go so they can bring in Yakuzlu. So it's interesting the sequence that it's all happened in. It's a good player. I'll be honest. I know I watched him at West Brom last season, but I didn't watch him too closely, so I don't really know what to expect. But I'm sure if he actually does sign, we'll do a video on it more in depth on him.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's interesting business actually. Just to just to look at it, Shano, in terms of we've been linked with a move, £5 million move around that for OK Kuzlu, with Will Hughes going out the door for £10 million. Of course, he hasn't signed for Watford, but would you see that as, would you view that as good business from a Watford point of view if that was to materialise?
Yeah, I think it is good business. One man leaves, another one comes in. Again, I don't know too much about Yakushlu. I saw him a few times at West Brom. He seemed to be the bright spark in there, let's be honest, an underperforming team. But I think a lot of the fans say that he's a bit of that. He's an upgrade on Hughes. So, okay, I'm excited to see that. Look, I ultimately think it's kind of reached a point with Will Hughes whereby he's now down the rabbit hole so much that he's now not able to find a way back out again. I think his Watford career was unsalvageable. As you say, you either move on or you go and stay in the under-23s. And for Adam Leventhal, I think in his article to make that abundantly clear, like there was no mincing of the words there. If a transfer deal cannot be sought, he will remain in the under-23s. That's a serious statement to make. That something has obviously gone on behind the scenes, and we won't know about it or we may never know about it until later on in his career or something. But as I say, wish Hughes the best of luck. Yakushlu comes in. That might be the final piece in the jigsaw of that midfield, maybe. I don't know if we're looking at any other midfielders. Again, if we are focusing on transfers, I think the future of Domingos Quina is another very interesting one in that sense for midfield. Bournemouth are linked with him. Didn't play. I don't think he played any part. I actually don't think he did at all. Actually, on Tuesday night, he wasn't in the squad. So where does that leave him? It's similar, or not that similar, to the Troy instance. Maybe left out of matches, looking for a move elsewhere. It would be a huge shame. Keeler's got so much talent. We saw that at times when he was in the Championship. It would be a huge loss for us, I think. On one side, you've got Keena, young player, loads of potential. And on the other side, you've got Troy, who's kind of seen and done it all with Watford in two of the biggest divisions in English football. So an interesting one, isn't it? A generational kind of transfer window. I think that's what I'll probably call this. Once it's all kind of been said and done, it's a generational one, isn't it? With Wilmot as well, a load of people looking at him. Hughes as well. Wilmot, Hughes, looking, players that some fans were saying, they're future captain material. Well, guess what? In the space of one summer transfer window, they're both gone. Nothing's a guarantee in football anymore, and it's rather sobering thought, really, isn't it? But
it is, yeah, it is. I think I don't know about you, Sam. I didn't really think we'd get onto the Keena subject, but he's been linked with a move to Bournemouth. Hasn't been involved in the Carabao Cup. He looks like he's going to be moving on. I'd be gutted. I really would be gutted. I think if Domingos Keena moved on, because there's a player there, Sam, for me.
I mean, I think there is a player there, but I haven't seen enough of it. I think he's been there now for 3 or 4 seasons.
Has he had the opportunity, Sam? Has he had the opportunity?
I mean, that is the other side to the argument as well. And I don't think it helps the volume of managers we've had with different playing styles. And that is a very niche position that he plays that some of the managers that we've had, such as Kike Flores or Nigel Pearson, haven't really looked to utilise that position. So I do feel sorry for him in a sense. But, I'm always going to have questions over. I don't want to bring this up again, but particularly after he supposedly broke the lockdown as well, I'm always going to have questions over that. So I mean, I'm not going to be too. I'm not going to be too disappointed personally if Keena does move on, even though there is a player in there.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with Domingos. Again, another one that's been rumbling on this transfer window. And just to say, I think Gioretta, he's come in and has had to oversee an incredibly interesting transfer window and busy transfer window, and so far Watford have done fantastically well, I think, overall. So we'll just see how the last week pans out. So OK Kuzlu, and another player who is going out the door is Isaac Success. He's agreed a 3-year deal with Udinese, of course, both clubs owned by the Pozzos, the Pozzo network. It's a move that made sense. From what we're reading from Ryan Gray in the Watford Observer, initially Success wasn't keen on a move to
it's just been announced.
Just been announced. I was just about to say, just been announced.
Look at the time of that.
On time.
Breaking news. Success has joined Udinese on a 3-year contract. Actually, Shane, first, briefly sum up your thoughts on Success's time at Vicarage Road, if you can.
Oh, boy. Where do I begin? a man who came in right with a lot of potential. I remember seeing his goal against Bournemouth. This guy looks great. Has the name success in his name, so it's going to be absolutely incredible for us. Hasn't really worked out that way, has it? I made a mention of this last week. We were talking about some other transfer news with Andre Gray and Stipe Perica, players that I think a lot was expected of, more was expected of. It's just fallen so flat, hasn't it, for Isaac's success? I think I've lost count the number of times I've heard some fans say this season is Isaac's success this season. Never really happened. Best of luck to him. I think I'll echo what I said last week. When it comes to those three strikers who have left the club now, it's a chance for them to go off, rebuild their careers, go and rediscover almost the joy of playing football. Because it can't have been easy. It can't have been easy for Perica to be sitting on the sidelines, having made an instant impact in a game against Bournemouth, be on the sidelines injured. That's tough. Andre scored some good goals for us, key goals for us. FA Cup quarter final, getting the assist in the semi-final, has not managed to kick on. And with Isaac's success, he's kind of just been there or thereabouts, hasn't he, really? I wish him the very best of luck. Udinese, I think, is a very safe option for him. He'll be there with some familiar faces as well, the likes of Marvin Ziegler and Roberto Pereira and Gerard Deulofeu and Ignacio Pacetto. So 4 players in there who know 4 of the members of that squad. Stefano Akaka as well, of course, 5th man in there. So there will probably be like a massive party for him when he does go there. And, hello, remember me, it's me again. But best of luck to him. That's all I'm going to say.
I think he's a prime example, Sam, of the Pozzo network in terms of going from Granada to Watford.
Oh, yeah.
Pozzo sell Granada, and then he's gone to Udinese. Sam, it just hasn't worked, has it? It's one of those.
No.
It happens in football. It just hasn't worked at Watford for success.
Yeah, it just hasn't worked. I'm not really too sure where it's gone wrong. It's the injuries. Perhaps he was overhyped. Perhaps there were some attitude problems in there. But as Shane said, wish him the best of luck. They're certainly, we saw a couple of times there was a player in there. He just needs to find some form and as Shane said, fall back in love with football again. And hopefully Udinese is the place that he can do that.
Just one thing to add. Yeah, well said, lads. I think there's probably one of the best final touches in a Watford shirt. If you cast your mind back to last season.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and then he's got, I think Mark Navarro set it up as well. So those two could be off. And just a stat I saw from Vic Bate on Twitter. Really good account talking all things Watford. He's put a stat on there, just kind of summed it up. Isaac's success started twice as many league games in his final season at Granada, 28, than he did in 5 years at Watford, 14. Just has not worked. And wish Isaac all the best for the future at Udinese. And just to wrap up this incredibly packed WD18 live show today, I think we're all feeling a bit tired because there's so much to discuss. The new Watford third kit. Oh my God, it's delicious. Sam, what's your 3-word review of Watford's third kit?
Oh my God, that's really putting me on the spot there. Take my money. That's what I'll say. Take my money.
I was going to say that. No.
Yeah. I think I'm going to have to give the...
I think I'm going to go with absolutely beautiful, but with a swear word in between. So, I have to think I'm not on the spot, man. That's not my fault. So, it's a lovely kit. I think it's one of those. I've seen a few fans ask the question: is it going to be our main away kit? I don't think it is. I think it literally is a third kit. I think it might all be used on Sunday. That's what's been announced this week. In the build up to the game, it'd be great to see that. It's going to be like last year's third kit though. Kellner pulled it out last season with that black shirt. That is a saucy shirt as well. Like the black one from last season. I think it's going to sell out again. They seem to do something special, don't they, with those third kits? I don't know what it is. Home shirt this season's okay. Away shirt is better, but the third kit is just like that, literally going up between the kits. But it looks beautiful, really does.
You know what? I think my, you know that meme from that Leeds manager when he says, maybe we spend too much, but we live the dream.
We live the dream.
That is me after buying all three. I'm going to be bankrupt. What are we rating out of 10 quickly? I've given it, I think it might have to be a 9.5 out of 10.
9, yeah, 9.
9.
No, I'll put it 10. That's 10, man. That's beautiful.
Yeah,
that's beautiful. Oh, look. Oh, Oh, it's too much.
Great from Anthony as well. Kelme is a real blessing. They have just absolutely delivered. Big shout out to Kelme with the kit stuff. But I think as we come up to the hour mark, that is where we're going to wrap up the stream. As someone said, I joined the stream late. Have I missed something? You can catch up. I feel like I'm saying it's on BBC iPlayer. It's not on BBC iPlayer. It's on WD18. You can catch up on the stream where we talked a lot. I mean, I think that might be, guys, I think that might be the busiest show we've ever done.
Yeah.
Honestly, I can't think of anything we didn't cover today.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My head's spinning. Yeah. Should we get our score predictions in there for Sunday?
Sorry. Great point, Sam. Score predictions.
Oh, yeah.
I'll go. I don't want to be pessimistic, but I'll go 1-0 Spurs.
Ooh, Shano.
2-1 Watford. We'll nick it late on.
I'm going to go for a 1-0 and we're going to score the first goal. Up the Hornets.
Up the Horns.
Thank you very much.
I'll take that.
Very much for getting involved today. Freddie with a lovely comment. Thank you, Anthony, for your comments today. We've got some really positive score predictions in the comment section below. You all at Spurs, we are indeed.
Yeah, we all are.
Is are at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. So if you do, this is a big thing as well. I've met so many lovely people at Brighton away, and if you do see any of us, look, come and say hello. We'll have a chat. It'll be even get a pint now. We're all of legal age to have a pint. Shane's been of legal age for a long time.
Yeah, Shane's ancient.
Yeah, true.
Look, lads, thank you very much. That we really did enjoy that. We are at Spurs on Sunday. Ian, top man, thank you very much. If you did enjoy, please do leave a like on the video. Comment down below your thoughts. Subscribe to WD18 if you're new. Turn on your post notifications so you never miss an upload. That's a big thing for these streams if you want to get involved live. And we'll see you very soon for some more content. Up the Hornets. Here we go. Spurs.
Come on, you all.